Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled you're taking the time to be here with me today. For the next few minutes, I just want you to imagine that you and I are sitting across a desk from one another, grabbing a cup of coffee. I'll even pretend I'm paying for it. Think of me as your personal financial advisor for a little bit. We're going to unpack a absolutely critical, life-altering transition that literally separates the people who are constantly stressed out about money from the ones who actually build true generational wealth. We're talking about the crucial leap from merely saving your money to actually putting it to work and investing it. Now, I know it's a topic that's usually surrounded by a ton of fear and, frankly, a lot of confusing jargon, but I promise you, by the time we finish our coffee today, you're going to see exactly how simple and incredibly powerful this shift really is.
So let's start with a scenario that I think is pretty deeply relatable for a lot of us. Let's call our friend here Sarah. Now, Sarah works incredibly hard for years. She does everything right, She wakes up early, puts in the long hours, and carefully, diligently saves a little piece of every single paycheck. She makes all those really hard, responsible choices. She skips the expensive avocado toast, she holds off on upgrading her phone when everyone else gets the new one, and she watches her bank balance slowly, incrementally tick up. She feels super responsible. But then, one day, she looks at her accounts and realizes something kind of shocking and maybe even a little infuriating. Her money has just been sitting there this whole time, but it barely grew. Meanwhile, she looks around and sees folks who started with the exact same amount of cash, or even less sometimes, and somehow they've ended up way wealthier. They're buying homes, taking real vacations, and just feeling totally secure. And when you're in Sarah's shoes, it can seriously make you feel like you're doing something terribly, terribly wrong.
Now, I want to be super clear right off the bat here. Saving money is a great thing. It feels responsible. And honestly, if you are regularly putting cash aside and building up that financial discipline, you are already miles ahead of the pack. You should definitely be proud of that. But we really need to talk about the harsh reality of what happens when you just stop at saving. When you only save, your money basically stays frozen in time. Actually, scratch that. It's not just frozen, it's actively shrinking. Because while your cash is just sitting there chilling, there's an invisible thief quietly operating in the background, and its name is inflation. To put that into perspective, $100 saved back in the year 2000 has lost nearly half its purchasing power today. Half! Inflation just means the cost of groceries, housing, and life in general goes up over time. If your money isn't growing at least as fast as the cost of living, inflation is just slowly, steadily eating away at what you can actually buy with it. That is exactly why so many hardworking, super disciplined folks stay financially stuck for years.
So the crucial point we need to hit on is this massive fundamental shift in mindset. Saving money protects your future, but investing money builds your future. Think about it like a sports game. Saving is your defense. It keeps you from losing the game immediately, right? It protects you from those unexpected curveballs, like a busted transmission or a sudden medical bill. But nobody, and I mean nobody, wins a championship playing only defense. You have to score points. Investing is your offense. It's how you actually advance down the field. If you're only saving, you're entirely on the defensive, and eventually the opposing team, which is inflation, is going to wear you completely down. To truly gain ground, we got to switch to offense.
Let's make this incredibly simple and actually look at the math. I want to anchor our whole discussion today on a specific, really relatable number. Let's suppose you have hustled and managed to save up $10,000. You've worked your tail off for this, and you want to decide the absolute best place to put it. We are going to look at exactly how this $10,000 behaves when it's forced to play defense versus when you let it play offense.
Let's run a quick one-year experiment. If you drop that $10,000 into a normal savings account earning a pretty standard 1% interest rate, after 1 year, you'll be sitting on $10,100. I mean, not terrible, right? You made $100 for doing nothing. But now, imagine that exact same money is invested in the stock market with an average historical yearly return of about 10%. After 1 year, you have $11,000. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Looking at just year one, the difference might not look completely life-changing quite yet. An extra $900 is definitely sweet, for sure, but looking at such a short timeline, you might be tempted to say, hey, is it really worth the effort and the perceived risk of investing just for an extra $900? And to answer that, we have to look way past year one. We have to introduce what I like to call the absolute secret engine of wealth building. It's a concept called compound growth. Guys, compound growth is just pure mathematical magic. Honestly, it's often called the eighth wonder of the world for a reason. It happens when your money starts making money, and then here's the real kicker. That new money also starts making money. It creates this massive snowball effect. In year one, your $10,000 earns a return. Great. But in year two, you're earning a return not just on your original $10,000, but also on the extra money you gained back in year one. As time goes on, this snowball just rolls down the hill, getting bigger, faster, and heavier, completely on its own.
And this brilliantly illustrates why time changes literally everything. Let's fast forward 20 years. If your original $10,000 just sits in that savings account growing at 1% annually for 20 years, you end up with $12,201. It barely moved an inch. But if you let compound growth work its magic at 10% annually for those same 20 years, you end up with $67,275. No way, right? But it's true. Same starting amount, same exact amount of time, completely, radically different outcome. This is the exact reason why wealthy people focus way less on just storing their money and way more on growing it. They just set it up and let the snowball roll.
So, looking at those numbers, it seems like a total no-brainer. $67,000 is obviously much, much better than $12,000, which naturally brings us to this incredibly important question. If investing is so ridiculously powerful, and the math is just sitting there in black and white, why are most of us so terrified to start? What's actually holding us back? Well, it's because there is a massive psychological hurdle we have to jump over here.
It really all comes down to human emotion and how our brains are hardwired. Saving feels safe. It's deeply, deeply comforting. You can log into your banking app on your phone every single day, and boom, that money is sitting right there. The number literally never goes down. Investing, on the other hand, feels inherently uncomfortable. Why? Because the stock market is dynamic. Prices move up and down all the time. Some days your investments go up and you feel like an absolute financial genius. Other days, they fall and you just see red all over your screen. Emotionally, that freaks people out. It triggers this primal panic response because we are naturally wired to be terrified of losing what we've worked so incredibly hard to save up.
But here is what most beginners fundamentally misunderstand about the market. You have got to separate the short-term noise from the long-term reality. Short-term movement is perfectly normal. Long-term growth is what actually matters. Yes, the stock market has crashes. It absolutely has bad months. You're going to turn on the news and see terrifying, sensationalized headlines screaming about the economy falling apart. But if you just zoom out and look at the historical data over decades, long-term investing has consistently trended upwards. Despite every recession, every crash, and every global crisis in history, the broad market has historically always recovered and pushed on to reach new highs. You just have to buckle in and ride out those short-term waves.
Okay, so let's dive into your actual game plan. Now that we understand the why, let's talk about the how. And don't worry, we aren't going to just take your life savings and throw it blindly into the market tomorrow. That would be reckless gambling, not investing. Here's your solid, step-by-step strategy. First things first, build your defense. You need an emergency cushion of 3 to 6 months of living expenses safely stored away in cash. Next, don't rush it. Take a little time to learn the basics. When you are ready, look into simple, broad market index funds. Seriously, you don't need to stress yourself out trying to pick the next winning stock. Keep your eyes locked on the 20-year horizon, not the 20-day horizon. And above all else, just stay consistent. Keep contributing a little bit month after month, rain or shine.
Now, I know that strategy sounds remarkably unexciting, and honestly, that is exactly the point. We need to completely reframe our expectations here. Hollywood loves to make finance look like dudes shouting on trading floors and kids becoming overnight millionaires. But true wealth building is beautifully, incredibly boring. It's kind of like watching paint dry, except the paint is slowly turning into solid gold. It is not gambling your rent money on the next hot crypto coin. It is definitely not getting rich overnight. It is simply making small, smart decisions and just repeating them over and over for years and years. It's planting a seed, watering it consistently, and then just having the patience to wait for it to become a massive oak tree.
If there is one core philosophy I really want you to take away from our coffee chat today, it is this. Saving money is the first step. Investing money is the absolutely necessary next step. One protects you, and the other grows you. You really do need both if you want to be fully financially secure and independent. And just remember, because of how that crazy snowball of compound growth works, the earlier you grasp this difference, the more time your money has to just roll down that hill and do the heavy lifting on your behalf. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a little bit of a challenge. I want you to completely change your internal dialogue. Next time you sit down, don't just look at your budget and ask, how much money can I squeeze out to save this month? Instead, I want you to start asking yourself a much more powerful, provocative question. How can my money grow while I am literally fast asleep? Once you start actively answering that question, you are officially on the true path to wealth. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.